A beginner-friendly laser needs to meet 3 criteria. It needs to be good to go straight out of the box, it needs to be very easy to use, and it also needs to be safe. Let me introduce you to the Wecreat Vision laser. It is probably the best beginner's laser on the market. It has a bunch of cool features at the core of this machine, and we're going to cover them in this video. Let's begin with the autofocus. Now this has a one-click system to determine the thickness of your material or the height that it needs to work at. Now if you are new to lasers, lasers have what is known as a focal point, and ultimately this is the point in the laser where the most energy is concentrated and you're going to get the best results from it. Now usually you have to set this height manually by adjusting the laser or putting some settings into your piece of software to determine the height that it needs to go at. But with this, you literally click one button in their software, it will come over to the material, determine the height that it needs to be at, and set that for you, ready to start a job. Next is the most obvious thing about this machine, the fact that it is fully enclosed, and a nice enclosure at that. And this has multiple benefits to it. The first is you can watch the job taking place without fear of damaging your eyes because of the laser protective shield on top of this machine. It also means if you have people walking in the workshop or you have dogs or pets roaming around, you don't need to worry about their eyes either because it is all self-contained. The second is the fumes and the smoke. Obviously whenever you are burning or engraving, it will generate fumes and smoke, and ultimately you want those out of the way. Because of it being a contained unit, it makes the extraction more efficient, and essentially the extraction fan in this will just send everything out through this little hose on the back. Not that big one, it is only a small one like this, but it just makes it very easy, as I say, to get rid of all the smoke and fumes that are generated from the laser. Third, well, it just offers general protection for your investment. Obviously you don't have to worry about things knocking it, falling on it, so having everything nice and enclosed safely and protected is just a great plus point. And another great feature is the inbuilt camera that we have right there. Now this isn't new technology, other lasers have them as well, but what it does do is make the user's life very easy. You can see the material live on your bed, know where you need to position things. If you have things like awkward shape offcuts of material, you can use those as well because you can have to factor things in directly on top of those shapes without having to worry, are they in the correct position or not? They definitely are because you can see that live as you're doing it. And the camera also helps with doing things like batch processing. You can just drop multiple items on the bed, position your artwork on top of them, and know that it's going to align up. Let's talk about some numbers and technical things. Now the laser inside of here is a diode laser and rated at a 20-watt output. Now for me that is kind of the sweet spot. You're going to have a decent amount of power for cutting certain materials, but also get some nice engraving results as well. And the downside to some of the more powerful diode lasers is they're becoming very large units, and that means a lot more weight to move around. The more weight to move around, the more chance of missing steps. Now in terms of moving things around, this is rated to travel at 600 millimeters per second. That is really quick. In terms of the work area for this machine, it is 420 by 290. Now the joys of the way it's built as well is you can technically put slightly larger material on that, obviously to utilize the full working area. And in terms of the Z height on the laser itself, I think it has a travel of 140 millimeters. Now given the focal length, that realistically means you can probably laser things up to around 100 millimeters deep off the base of this machine. The laser accuracy for this is rated at 0.1 millimeters. So in other words, that focal point that I referenced earlier, the pointy bit of the laser light, that is 0.1 millimeters. Now I don't have anything technical enough to measure that, but that is the rating for it. People always want to know what materials this will engrave and cut. Let's start with engraving. It's going to do most that you can think of. Obviously it will engrave wood, it can engrave slate, it can do things like acrylic and different composites, it can do leather as well, it can engrave the back of mirrors, it can engrave coated metals such as aluminium tags, it will even mark stainless steel. Now the reason I'm switching from engrave to mark is engrave literally means to take material away, whereas on something like stainless steel it will leave a permanent marking on it, but it will not remove the stainless steel. Now when it comes to cutting, no matter what power the diode laser is, I always say your expectations need to be realistic. These are better at engraving than they are at cutting, but in saying that, it's still going to do a wide variety of materials. Obviously it's going to cut through various thicknesses of plywood, maybe up to 10 millimeters thick. It's going to do MDF, it's going to be able to cut through acrylic and different types of plastic, it's going to be able to cut through cardboard as well, and even foam, probably other materials that I forgot to mention. So you're going to be able to produce a great range of projects across both engraving and cutting with this machine. Now I hate having to break continuity of a video, but two important things I forgot to mention. First is the cost for the machine. The base price starts around $1,200 to $1,300 depending on what offers they have on at the time. The links in the description area will always take you to the best available prices, so definitely check them out. The second is distribution. At the time of recording this, it's only available in America and Canada, but as of May 24 they will be distributing to other countries, starting with Europe, UK and moving out from there. So if you're watching this and it's not available in your country at the time, keep an eye on it because they are continuing to expand. Let's talk about safety. Now obviously on top of this machine is the laser shield we've already touched on, so you can watch the laser as it is running. The lid itself also has inbuilt safety features. If your job is running and you lift the lid up, it will pause your job. Now the joys of this is it only pauses your job, it doesn't stop it, so you can lower the lid back down, press the button and it will continue on from the exact position that it stopped. And I tested this a couple of times and it actually does a pretty good job of pausing and continuing. Now I don't know if it's by design or mistake, but if you start the job with the lid up, it kind of cancels out the safety feature of the lid. So for example, for me, it helped because I could film the laser without the lid needing to be down. But yeah, as I say, I don't know if I like that factor or not, but it did help me in this scenario. And the machine is also intelligent enough to know its own working areas, so if it's going to go out of bounds, it will stop the job or tell you in the software. It also knows that if it can't find your material for the autofocusing, it will also give you a warning for that as well. Now one feature some people may be looking for that is not on this machine is flame detection, but if I'm honest, I'm unsure if beginners machines should have that installed anyway. Now the reason for this, then you see a lot of people getting complacent with their machines, starting a job off and leaving it to go and do something else, thinking, oh, the flame detection will shut down if there is an issue. And there's an awful lot of people that burn down machines and more than that as a result. So yes, this machine doesn't have it, but I sort of think that's a good thing for beginners anyway, because they shouldn't have any reason to walk away from their machine. Let's talk about software, because one of the big selling points for this machine is it comes with its very own software. And I will start by saying this is simple, easy to use, and I just dove straight in without any tutorials because it is so intuitive. Now its simplicity is a double-edged sword, and I will come on to the other side of that sword shortly, but let's talk about the positives of the software. Now it comes with its own material library. When people get started with lasers, it's a similar thing to CNC. The biggest thing is for understanding the speeds and power settings to achieve certain things on different materials. Now for example, if you wanted to cut some 3mm ply, in their own software you would literally just select the 3mm ply option and it knows the settings to use to cut through that material. If you wanted to do an engraving or a shading on certain types of material, again, let's say you wanted to engrave some black plastic, select the setting for that and it does it. Now when I'm talking about selecting settings for engraving as well, it literally gives you a display grid on screen of the various results from the tests that they've already done, and you can just select the option that you want and it will input the settings to match that. So when I'm talking about simplicity, it really does make it very easy for the user. The software as well can also be run from different platforms, so you can run it from a PC, from a laptop, from a tablet or even from a phone. Now what I will say is I couldn't actually get it to run from my phone via the Wi-Fi, but I could get it to run from the PC behind me over the Wi-Fi, so probably more of an issue with my phone than the actual Wi-Fi connection itself. And of course there is the failsafe, which I actually prefer of running it via a USB cable anyway. And another great feature for beginners is there is a pre-loaded library of lots of different projects that you can do within it. Some of them are free, some of them do cost. I don't like the idea of charging existing customers for projects that have probably been sourced from elsewhere, if I'm perfectly honest, but that's Wecreat's choice. The bottom line is they have projects that can be loaded directly into your machine with the correct settings and good to go. So as I say, from a beginner's point of view, it really does make life very easy. I said earlier, its simplicity is a double-edged sword, so let's look at the other side of that blade. Now, some things are extremely limited in terms of simplicity. They are too simple. So for example, when using the type tool, there is no options to adjust the alignment of it. Most pieces of software out there that have a type tool, you can have left aligned, center aligned, right aligned. You have no choice on this, and it's a really basic function that is missing. Similar thing with some of the drawing tools. They are very elementary and they need some additional features adding to them in order to start to compete with other software out there. I will move on to other software very shortly. Now in terms of the settings as well, these are oversimplified in some areas. For example, they only can do engraving in one direction. What I mean by that is if you're engraving a block of something with lots of lines, it has to go burn, back to the start, burn, back to the start, burn, back to the start. Now on other software, it has what is known as bi-directional. So instead of keep going back to the start, it just goes burn, 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 burn. And obviously that makes it much faster. So in theory, using their software is going to take twice as long. I will also say as well, their toolpath processing is also not as efficient as some other software out there. They also need to look at how their estimated job times are calculated. Quite often I found things taking twice as long as the estimation. Now the negative sides to the software, if I'm honest, is the biggest downfall to this machine. The hardware is actually brilliant. It is the software that lets it down. But the joys of that is software can continually be improved, and they are already releasing updates, listening to customers' feedback. And I genuinely mean this. I have held off putting this review out because there was an update coming to allow this to integrate with Lightburn, because it is a big feature that people have been asking for. Now if we go back about a week and a half ago, I was about to have a segment in this review about the fact I hated this didn't work with Lightburn, but because so many people have asked for this request, they have spoke to the Lightburn team and got it now working in Lightburn as of about a week ago. And that just goes to show that not only are they continually making those updates to the software, they are also listening to the customer's feedback. Now there are still some things that need to be improved in terms of this communicating with Lightburn, but the bottom line is they have made it happen. If you're not familiar, generally speaking, Lightburn is the best laser software out there. It does have a cost to it, but it is a very reasonable cost for how good the software is. There are a few little things I like about this machine. I didn't know what segment to put them in, so I'm just going to reel them off. The fan on the extraction unit and the laser itself, these only run when the laser is working. I know that sounds really silly, but there are some lasers that as soon as you turn them on, all of the fans start running. It makes it noisy and it uses a lot of energy. Now the joys of this only working when it needs to do a job is it makes them last longer, minimises on the noise, and ultimately it saves you energy as well. So with this, when you start a job, all the fans will kick in. When the job finishes, it continues for about 20 to 30 seconds, make sure all the fume's out of there, and then it shuts down, making things quiet again. All the internal mechanisms of the machine have been done very neat and tidy. A lot of thought and care have gone into the positioning of wires, of drag chains, that type of thing, and all just finished off very nice. Now if you've used a diode laser or even a CO2 laser before, you'll know there is such a thing as overburn, which is basically where there's a bit of shading going in the direction that the air is flowing from the burning of the laser. Sometimes you need to clean it up on any jobs that you are doing. Now I don't know why, there is hardly any on this laser. It is the most minimal that I've ever seen, and in some cases there has been no overburn at all. It really is the cleanest cuts and burning that I've seen on any diode laser. A tiny bug that is winding me up. There is a small tray underneath here, obviously for cleaning out debris after things have been cut. The problem is obviously trying to get your hands underneath there is actually quite difficult to get to the tray. So they either need to make this opening a little bit wider or do something like I've done as a temporary solution, where I've just put a zip tie to it in order to pull it out. But yeah, a little bug that could be easily fixed. Now you may see over on the far side a little unit. That is the air compressor for the air assist within this machine. It's relatively quiet for what it does, and it also sits on little rubber feet that wobble, and basically that means that it minimises any vibration that goes on the base that it's sitting, ultimately helping to be a little bit quieter. And in terms of additional accessories, that comes with the machine, but you can buy a few things obviously to enhance your experience. One of the most popular ones is a rotary device. Now this is a simple thing to fit to this unit. It's also simple in the software to swap over to the rotary device, and you're going to do all of your cylindrical objects that you would expect. You can do smaller items such as rings and jewellery, or even bigger things such as the thermal insulated cups that I know a lot of people like to use and make and sell. You can do those on this device as well, and so really easy to switch over between them. Now the other two accessories that are available for this is a pass-through bed. So effectively this sits on like a bed, and you can pass material in through the front and out through the back. Obviously the work area is limited to this size, but with a pass-through bed you can put longer pieces of material through to do larger jobs. Now you have to take into account obviously a larger job will take a longer time to do, but ultimately it does mean you can do like much larger signs by passing it through this material. And the third accessory is an air filtration kit. Now, I mentioned earlier about the air coming out of the hose on the back here and needing to go through a window or something along those lines. This will help minimize the amount of fumes and things coming out of it. So ultimately, if you wanted to run this indoor without ventilation, it can help. Now, what I have to say is this is about 80-90% effective. So you're still going to get some element of the fumes and things coming out of the filter system, but it does make it better. So who is this laser for? Well, it's obviously definitely targeted at beginners because of the various features and the simple software, but with the integration of Lightburn, it's also going to appeal to those who are intermediate and more advanced users. It is definitely targeted at those wanting to make some money from their laser and having this in the workshop. Obviously, the various accessories available for it mean you're going to be able to produce a wide variety of items ultimately that you can go on and sell. And with the good combination and good balance of power and speed within this machine, you're going to get things produced fairly quickly, nice and easily, and at good quality results. Who is the machine not for? Well, those wanting to engrave metal. You ideally need a fiber laser for that, so this is not the one for you. And those wanting to do things like cutouts in clear acrylic. Now, again, due to the wavelength of a diode laser, it doesn't work well with clear material. You can engrave on clear acrylic and on glass, but ultimately the way you have to do that is painting the surface of it, engraving the paint, and then washing it off. So you can achieve engraving on clear materials, but this will not cut through clear materials. So again, this isn't the one for you. So that is the roundup of the Wecreat Vision laser. I have genuinely enjoyed reviewing this machine. As I said at the start, a great machine for beginners, but also intermediate and advanced users as well. The software is the biggest drawback, but as we've already covered, they are making improvements. And by the time you're watching this, there's probably going to be additional features released as well. And the fact that they have integrated Lightburn, it just means you're going to get so much more out of your laser and be able to produce some really great projects, and that they're definitely listening to customers' feedback. Now, if you are interested in buying one of these machines, there will be some affiliate links in the description area below. They always take you to the best price and do not cost you any extra. I may get a tiny bit back that ultimately helps keep the channel going. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and obviously subscribe. Thank you all very much for watching, and final thanks as always goes to my patrons. I'll see everyone on the next episode.